You can open the door to invite the soul star of your loved one who you're no longer in connection or communication with, and invite them to come into that space and sit with you. And then you speak to them soul to soul. And you might think that you might want to say all kinds of things to repair the relationship, but what's actually more profoundly healing than trying to say what you think you should say in order to heal the relationship is to really authentically say everything that you've ever wanted to say and how hurt you are and how you feel and what you can fully move into pettiness, into victimhood in this practice. I can't believe you're not talking to me. You've hurt me so deeply. This is horrible. How dare you do this? And really get it out. Like just go for it. Get it all out. Every single thing that you want to say and how deeply, profoundly hurt you are or what happened and tell your side of the story and just like go for it. And on a soul level, they will receive that. It won't hurt them in any way. All right, welcome everybody. I'm Kelly, I'm the angel lady, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. Um, I don't know if any of you are feeling emotional, feeling a lot of release, a lot of letting go of things. We happen to energetically right now in our community be in what's called the death code. Sounds intense, and it is a bit intense. We are addressing death. You know, we are all going to die. Something we don't like to talk about in the West. We like to sweep it under the rug, pretend it's not happening. But the reality is that we will all face that moment when we leave this physical flesh behind and we ascend into other dimensions and higher frequencies. And so we've been practicing that in the death code, and it's really been interesting from, well, first of all, we've been working with the vibration of Shiva. We've been going to Mount Kailash in the Himalayas as a beautiful, pure conduit of energy, a portal that opens up what's called the death portal. And we've been energetically, obviously, we're not physically dying, but we are preparing by entering into this space where time collapses and we go through this time portal, and we come out of the body and we begin to feel that love, that presence as we look down on our body. And the last few days, we went into a space of doing a life review. And I just want to encourage you, whether you're in this light code with us or not, to do that practice in your meditation to practice, separating spirit from flesh and allowing a spirit to turn around energetically and look at the body. You can practice that in different ways. There's practices we do in the pineal gland light code. It's probably happened a couple years ago or more, maybe 3 or 4, where we would move through the pineal gland, we would come out, we would turn our consciousness around and be able to look back at ourselves. And at the time of death, from my understanding of talking to Archangel Raphael, and I'll explain something that happened today, we have that opportunity. We're kind of just looking down at the body behind us, and we're feeling that oneness and that love and that bliss, and we detach from, oh, there's Kelly laying down there. We're not attached to it. So along the way, before we let go of the physical body, we have these deaths, mini deaths of letting go, our ego deaths, as we detach more and more, and we come into the full embodiment of life. And the closer we bring in a way death to us, the more we fully live, the more we embody our senses and the elements and life. So today I had an extraordinary experience. As many of you know, I've been channeling for 37 years, and I can channel gods and goddesses and all kinds of beings. I've been very fortunate that that's something I've been able to do for a very long time. And in the past, people would come to my home and I would channel for them one-on-one. Of course, I don't do that anymore. And they often would want to talk to somebody who had passed away, of course. And I would do that. And afterwards, my body would be absolutely exhausted. It was a different vibration for me energetically than talking to Lakshmi or Kuan Yin or an ascended master or whoever might be coming in. But today, my brother-in-law, who passed about a year and a half ago, who was an extraordinary healer, his name was Arnaud Bernier. He came in to talk to us about the dying process, which was interesting because he had what you would call a conscious death. He chose to die. He was in severe, severe pain, and it was his time, and he consciously decided to exit. And so he was able to have closure and discussions and all those things that one would do with full awareness that it was their time to go. And he came in and he told his story. And it was interesting is I think one of the reasons that he came through, although I have many relatives that I'm close to who've died not in recent years, is because without him, I wouldn't be a channel today. I was back in the late 80s. I would go to my sister's house in New Hope, Pennsylvania. On the weekends, I was a college student, and he was learning a new type of chiropractic work. It was called network. And my current husband, who I was dating at the time, and I would drive over there, and there were a bunch of tables laid out in a room. We would lay down, and some of my other sisters would join us, and he would work on our bodies. And through this very gentle work on the meningia at the base of the spine, some of you might be familiar with it called network chiropractic. It had a profound, I had a profound experience with it. It was in the very early days in the late 80s. The work is not as intense anymore. We were almost like guinea pigs. Um, but it totally opened me up. I wasn't trying to channel. I had no idea what channeling was. There weren't even books on it. There was no internet. There was nothing. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? I'm talking to like people are talking through me. And the energy just started moving through my body. And I would lay on the table. My body would go in a wave and my hands would go back. And I would, ha ha, make that toning sound. And Raphael would go, hello. And I didn't even know who Raphael was, or we didn't even know what the name of it was. And then as soon as I would stop, my sister would go, ha ha, and she would do it, and he would play with us, like with his hands on our spines, as if he would, and he could touch us in certain ways, almost like you were playing an instrument. And I would make the sound, and then it would come down, and she would make it, and the energy would move between us. And then it would become contagious. And before we knew it, everybody in the room on different tables would be singing and their bodies would be moving and the energy was really flowing. And it was a really incredible, magical time in my life. And so then there were years where I worked for him before my son, Casey, many of you know, I worked for him in his office as a chiropractor, and he was incredibly talented. We would get there in the morning and in the afternoon, and people would be lined up literally on the streets to see him. The waiting room would be packed. We'd see anywhere from 100 to 150 people a day. They would just be coming in all day long, and he would put his hands on them, and people would have all kinds of profound healing. So we're in the death code, and to my surprise, today I channeled him. And he has this book. It's called The Cafe of Life. Actually, you guys know the Master Ascension Light Code Oracle deck that we have, and the artwork that's on it is by Debashri Terrell, and she also did the artwork for his book. Anyway, this is his life story. So uh all the people would come and he would work on me and I had this opening, and then he passed away not too long ago. And like I was saying, he had this conscious death, but he was this profound healer. And it was really interesting today because I channeled him and he came through. And I've been receiving a lot of messages from people in our community that they had some profound experiences from today, and that it was really supportive and helpful to him. And he let everybody know that they can call on him for physical healing, and that he's learning this new kind of technique, in a sense, where he is in the afterworld. And what was interesting in this process that today, and I'm sharing this because, well, many reasons. One, I want to tell you what happened, but secondly, it was so much energy moving through my body today that after I got off the call, and this never happens. I do codes, as you know, all year long, and I'm always teaching, and I can be tired, but I'm usually okay. And I just sort of like put my hands in my face and just started sobbing. It was just a lot. And I was just absolutely exhausted from holding the container of that energy in my body. And it was very emotional. And I have this call with you guys today. And I was just like, I don't think I have it in me. I don't think I can channel today. But I can be Kelly and I can talk to you guys and I can answer your questions and I will, but not as Raphael, but as Kelly. And maybe after 37 years, I kind of have a little idea what Raphael might say. So we will get to Q&A in a minute and we'll do that through the Master Ascension Light Code Oracle deck. I'll read some cards and I'll answer your questions and do my very best. And then next week we'll get back to the channeling. So don't fear, no worries about that. But what I wanted to tell you was that one of the things that he was saying in this transmission was that his energy was coming through this portal, but he can't reach us, whether you have an ancestor who has a healing quality or a way of supporting or helping you or protecting you or loving you or helping you with something. When our hearts are shut, when our grief is so heavy, when we're contracted and locked in our patterns, that energy is maybe flowing, but we're not able to receive it. And so what we're doing in the death light code is we're having these mini deaths, these mini releases, even if we're not fully always aware of it. We're letting go, we're shedding, we're opening our heart, we're softening our heart. We're allowing ourselves to feel the heaviness and the grief so it can just soften a bit and open up so that we can receive these healings. And so I want to remind you that, yeah, I talk to Archangel Raphael, but you guys all have a guardian angel and you all have energy around you. It is not unique to me. I've been doing it a long time, and maybe I've done it for so many lifetimes that maybe perhaps it's my gift and I'm a little more refined at it for some reason, but it's accessible to all of us. And right now on the planet, things are shifting so much, and the veil is so thin, and everybody is feeling a bit, not everyone, I don't know how you're all feeling, but there's a lot of rawness, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, and a feeling of vulnerability and wanting to return to a sense of authenticity and just like being real and just sharing how we're really feeling and dropping the persona or the desires of attachment to things that just aren't so important. And when you're in the death code and you're really working with that energy, it's such a beautiful reminder of how much time we have in the human body. And it's just a blink, right? And then we're in another body or we're in the afterlife or we're doing something else. And so we're here to fully embody all the senses and one another and hug each other and love each other and stand up for what we think is important and speak our truth and be in our power and be authentic and embrace the beautiful things in life and the elements and nature and abundance and sweetness and healing and all of these things. And so I think we're really being tested on a lot of levels that as the chaos is swirling around, and I noticed last weekend there were some things that unfolded in the United States that felt disturbing, and I don't usually tap into the news. In fact, I never tapped into the news, but um, I had a stomach thing and I was kind of like laying in my bed and it came up on my feed and then I got in the algorithm of the craziness. I was like, oh my God, this is horrible, right? You get caught in the algorithm. The whole world has gone mad and on a lot of levels it had. And I was like, wow, I've been detached from that. And then I got a message from my daughter. Somebody sent in a question asking, when things in the world are so chaotic and horrible, do we turn away from it or do we stand up for it? Like, what is our responsibility? Because Raphael was always saying, focus on what it is you were wanting to create. And everyone has a different purpose, a different ray, a different energy, a different part to play. Like I'm playing a part of holding a container of unity and love, but somebody else's container might be that they're protesting for peace and for love, or for somebody else, it might be whatever it is. Everyone has a different thing. So there's no right or wrong answer how we go about things. But what is real is that we're real, that we're authentic, that we're honest, that we're true to our integrity, to our humanness, to who we are, to what is right. Because when I had that life review last week in class, I thought, oh, I'm going to see, like, I had then imagined what my life review might be about, or maybe all the good things in my life I've done, or I think of myself as to have an open heart or to be generous. And it was interesting. None of that showed up at all. It was these tiny little interpersonal relationships, these moments of saying something to someone or them saying it to me and my family or friends, or how that affected them and that rippling effect and how that went out into the world. And I really took note as to what was showing up. And then in the life review, we were asked, feel you, I was feeling all the feelings and the emotions of my whole life, right? It was like the flashing of everything. And then when something would pop up that was strong, even if it was a small incident, where I was being asked then to move into the body of the person I was having the reaction with and to feel what were they feeling in that moment. And it could even just be something really small and insignificant. Like one of the things that came up was I was a little kid in the hospital. I had been sick for a long time. I was in the hospital at an early age for a few months. And my dad would come and he would just like open his briefcase and work all the time and not pay attention to me. But he would visit, but he wasn't, didn't even practically know I was there. My mom was paying attention. And I was always so like upset about this. And in my life review, I saw that. And then I went into his body and went into his body and I looked and I was like, oh, I was feeling everything he was feeling. And what he was really feeling was he had four other children in college at the moment, and he was really stressed, and he had to get his work done so he could make enough money to pay for them. And he was like, knew my mom had me, and his focus was somewhere else. But it wasn't because was something toward me. It wasn't personal about me. It was what he was feeling, and it was just this slightest shift in perspective that as a child I didn't get, but as an adult I do. And so I want to invite you, the tiny little things, they might seem insignificant, right? But they get caught in our field. And then that story might say, oh, I'm not important, or I'm unworthy, or when I'm sick, no one cares, right? All these silly things. So I'm just encouraging you guys to go in and practice the practices we're doing in the code again. And if you're not in the code, go when you're going off to sleep, just imagine what would happen if you were leaving your body and you were entering into your life review. What do you think would show up? And allow through meditation those things to come up. And then notice if I were to step into the shoes of who I'm in interaction with, what were they feeling? And then ask yourself, what would the divine think about that or be feeling? All right, so I'm going to get to all your questions. Just one more second. I wanted to finish something up. Um, in this thing, when Arno came in, he showed us him coming up over the body. He showed us that when he was met by his father, and then he went through this dark cave, so it's kind of similar to maybe a tunnel, and then he came out into this space, and then there were all these different sequences where he ended up landing where he is right now, where he's kind of being mentored to do healing. And so next week, when I'm teaching, we'll go through some other processes, but just start to imagine into your own experience. In preparation, how would you guide your spirit? Where is your spirit going? What fears do you maybe still holding around death? How can you begin to recognize that you're this eternal being of light, and start releasing that? Okay, so we're going to open it up to Q&A. Casey is here, and he is going to call on you guys. Okay,
All
Case.
right. Hey, everybody. So, I'm just gonna call on people that have their cameras on because we know they're there. and they're available. So we're gonna start with Shanti, Penelope. Go ahead. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here. I've got my question written down. So, dear Kelly, thank you for receiving my question. I'm in the midst of an almost 8-year journey of estrangement from my beloved daughter, Isabel Rose. This heartbreaking time of no contact has unfolded alongside deep and ancestral family trauma, which I have devoted my life to healing, meeting, and bringing into the light greater truth and compassion. At the same time, I'm gently and slowly repairing relationships with my birth siblings after many years of separation. I know I'm not alone in this experience. Many in the collective are walking the path of estrangement from children, parents, siblings, or loved ones, and carrying a grief that is both personal and transpersonal. From the higher perspective of the soul, the lineage, and the greater cosmic intelligence, can you please help us understand why some souls choose this crucible of separation and heartbreak as part of their initiation? What is the deeper initiation or healing that is seeking to unfold through these long periods of rupture? And with great tenderness, I ask, is there anything that is truly within our hands to support or facilitate the healing journey towards reunion? Anything that we can do to align with the highest timeline so that reconciliation and repair may occur with greater ease, grace, and right timing, so that these separations do not continue longer than is necessary for the greatest good of all. Thank you for guiding us in how to hold faith, love, and integrity while holding the mystery of each soul's path. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanti. Well, first of all, I'm deeply sorry that you're having that experience, and that has to be incredibly difficult. It does seem to be a phenomenon that is rising up for many, seem to be having this experience as some type of clearing in the ancestral lineage that perhaps can only be done when one can move into, or thinks they can move into a container where somehow they're feeling safe. But perhaps that in itself is an illusion. I don't know, and I'm not here to answer personal questions on how, on a personal level, that healing can take place. All I can say is that from a larger perspective, it can always take place on a soul level, and peace it can be found within your own heart. And there's different ways at the soul level that we can begin to create that healing. And it sounds like you've done an incredible amount of work already. And I'm sure that a lot of that healing has taken place. And sometimes it doesn't always show up in the physical. And sometimes we even die and we think something hasn't been healed, but it has been healed on the larger scale, on the soul level. So, a practice that was shared with me a long time ago that I find incredibly powerful, and I don't know if you've heard me speak of it or not before, is that when you're in conflict with anyone, well, I mean, there's many practices, but one is to go into deep meditation, and I've lost the screen, so I can't see you, unfortunately, but to go into deep meditation and to protect yourself with a dome of energy and light and to move into a sacred space that feels really safe for you, and in that space to connect with your soul, the essence of who you are, to really, really find that space, to release completely the personality matrix, go up to the soul level. And once you've reached that soul level, or that soul star, you might want to call it your soul star, you can open the door to invite the soul star of your loved one who you're no longer in connection or communication with, and invite them to come into that space and sit with you, and then you speak to them soul to soul. And you might think that you might want to say all kinds of things to repair the relationship, but what's actually more profoundly healing than trying to say what you think you should say in order to heal the relationship is to really authentically say everything that you've ever wanted to say, and how hurt you are and how you feel, and what you can fully move into pettiness, into victimhood in this practice. I can't believe you're not talking to me. You've hurt me so deeply. This is horrible. How dare you do this? And really get it out. Like just go for it. Get it all out. Every single thing that you want to say and how deeply, profoundly hurt you are or what happened and tell your side of the story and just like go for it. And on a soul level, they will receive that. It won't hurt them in any way. And then you can just stop and you just take your hand and as you're looking at them from an energetic standpoint, you take your hand, you face them, and you go from your soul star all the way down to your earth star, and you just cut the energy, just cut all of it. That doesn't mean that you're sending them away. To contrary, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that you're disconnecting from the energetic charge. Then you take your hand this way and you do the same thing. And then you say, thank you so much for coming here and hearing what I had to say. And then you open the gate to the space and you see them turn around and walk away. Then you might notice a little bit of relief or something, a softening in your being. And then the next day, do it again and again and again for as many days as you need to do it until they sit in front of you and you go to say, I can't believe, and whatever you want to say, whatever it is with passion and conviction, and there's nothing left. It's been released and the cords have been cut energetically. And they may, something might shift then. They might come back somehow. You might somehow get a phone call or something might change, but you can't do it because thinking that if I do this, this is the result. You have to do it and then let go. And I remember doing this process with someone in my family who I have a difficult time with. And I thought, oh, I'll just do it once. And I had to do it for like 10 days. I was in Iowa doing panchakarma. So my energy was raw and I was healing myself. And I was screaming and crying and screaming and it's everything, right? And I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then one day I got up to do it and there was just nothing left. I had nothing left to say. And it was just, I had kind of moved into a neutral zone. I didn't have an attachment anywhere about how the relationship should show up or how it should be. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then the next time there was a family event, this person was at the family event. They were so nice to me. And they were talking to me, and it was like a totally different person. And I'm not sure exactly how or why that happened. And I didn't do it for them for anything to change. I just did it to release it. So having a family member or a child who we've raised and loved and did our best, but we weren't perfect because none of us are perfect and we make mistakes, not talking to you is just heartbreaking. And so I'm in no way saying it's not. And I don't know why it's showing up in your experience, why it's showing up in their experience, what is needed here. But obviously, you're on a journey for some deep, profound healing. And one of the things that I've recognized in the death code is that we do know, right, that being on earth is like school. It's a journey for our soul to grow. And we do, as hard as it is to possibly even imagine, choose and interact and create scenarios within our contracts with one another, even our children in difficult situations that forces us to grow. And one of the things that came up today and when Arno came in and I was channeling him was he was almost thanking someone in his life who he was in a relationship with, who he had seen as the bad one or the difficult one, and realized that they were the strong one. They were the courageous one who took on the role of playing that energy in order for him to come into non-judgment, to come into forgiveness, to come into healing, to open his heart. But if that person had been like, all smiley sweetness and roses, there wouldn't have been any growth. There wouldn't have been any opening, heart opening, healing, a need to force oneself to look at something, to recognize their part. And so it sounds like you've done all the healing, and maybe there isn't anything more to do other than to let go of the outcome and surrender to what will unfold, and to get into that neutral state of finally coming to that point where you're at peace with whatever happens. And when you actually finally come into that place of peace, that's usually when the reconciliation happens. So that's how I would handle it. All right. Is there another question?
All right, so our next question is going to be Liz. So go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Um, I want to do the usual, but um, as a astrology enthusiast, I was wondering how will, and within this sort of new age that's coming up here, and all these new energies and these big shifts, is astrology, and I'm speaking about Western or tropical astrology, will it be changing much in the next 10, 20 years, our interpretation or how it works? And if it is going to change, how's that going to look?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question. Well, I'm not an astrologist. My favorite astrologist, of course, is Pam Gregory. And it was
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, of course.
She's such a love. Recently, she was saying to me in a private conversation, she was saying, "Who knows what will happen? We are changing so rapidly that the astrology is changing. We are a mirrored reflection. The universe and us are mirroring one another, and the zodiacs and the stars, and we will awaken to new discoveries and teachings and understandings. And as we're evolving and our consciousnesses, the mirror of that will occur, of course, in the cosmos as well as on our planet. How that will unfold, what that will mean, probably. I don't know, but more of a deeper understanding of going further out, more galactic connections. And reading and feeling into things differently. Something came up interesting in class last week about, the zodiacs being within our body, and that through the cycle of our day. And Debashri was sharing this, that we go through the breath cycles of each zodiac. And so maybe as our light body expands and we are energetically expanding, we will have more discovery, more understanding of the stars, and new systems will be born. So I have no doubt that there will be great changes in those areas. And the other thing is that everything is becoming so much more fluid, that astrology, I'm no expert at this, but it felt as though it was this beautiful map that was guiding us on our journey, that we could look to for some pointers as to where we're going. But as things are shifting, we're becoming so much more fluid, and our capacity to create is so much faster, the energy is more malleable, that it is a guide, and we can connect to its vibration, but the change in course feels so less fixed than it did before. And that's also reminding me the importance, I know that we always want to know what is going to happen in the future. This is a human desire, right? Tell me what's happening, the prediction or whatever. And we're always searching for someone who will have the answer. Is the stock market going to crash, or is there going to be a war? Is the president going to, whatever? We want to know. Like, somebody tell me, when is the ascension happening? What's the date? Give me the timeline. But nobody knows, because we're continuously shifting our consciousness and we're creating our reality. And as the acceleration is occurring on the planet at the rate that it is, our capacity to create and the bubbles and spheres of energy that we live in are mirroring our consciousness so much more than ever before, that we're almost breaking apart from the collective tapestry into there's more space within that tapestry of a potentiality to change our reality based on the quickening of our thoughts. And so I think that the prediction game of what will happen is becoming less predictable because it depends upon us, our heart, our consciousness, our love, our vibration, and what we, through our free will, collectively as a species, are going to decide to do. And so, and then some of us may decide to move in one direction and some perhaps in another. And those timelines are going to mirror completely different realities that probably will actually even be mirroring a different set of alignments within the stars. So it's so nuanced and complicated, but I think the more that we can come into the understanding that they're a map, a guide, but that we, depending on our energy, our frequency, where we place our attention, are creating our reality is so important. And that's what Pam, of course, would always say as well. So thank you for that question.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Next question is Rebecca.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Oh, there might be more Rebeccas than one. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm the right one.
Rebecca de Simone.
Oh, hi. Yes. Can you guys see me on here?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. I do have my video on, but I can't get to it right now. Hello, and thank you so very much for taking my question. I want to thank you so much for your aid to humanity. I have never felt so connected to myself or to spirit since I began studying your teachings and receiving your activations, and my gratitude is literally overwhelming. Thank you
Oh,
so
I wish I
much.
could see your beautiful face. You're saying
Um,
these sweet things to me, but I can't
uh,
see you.
here, maybe.
Anyway,
Oh, is that
okay, go
better?
ahead.
Okay. I think maybe you
I
can now.
don't.
I can. Okay. Um, thank you. So
Okay.
I have been studying about the Taurus rocks and learning how the toroidal field is generated from just the shape of a stone or a rock, or sometimes even just a child's toy. And it can create a magnetic field that entrains our own toroidal field to its original kind of flow just by having the Taurus stone or whatever it may be in our vicinity. And I'm also studying Ibrahim Karim's biosignatures and how the 2D plane, if something's drawn on that, can project recursively inward to entrain our organs and our biological systems. And so I'm really fascinated by this, and I'm really, really, really deeply learning about it. And so I just wanted to see if you could maybe expand and reflect on this phenomena and yeah, anything to do with this sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert on this. I'll share what I know, and of course, Raphael would have more in-depth understanding. But we all know that the torque field is around all things, and just like anytime we interact with anyone, we're obviously interacting with their torus field or their whole energetic body, and so anything that carries a torque field is going to have an influence on us, and we're going to have an influence on that. What I have found with Raphael, where this came up the most in our teaching, and I think Debishri has met with the man you're speaking of in Egypt. She sat with him, and he's quite fascinating. You may want to contact her to understand more about their conversation. But um, in the healing code, what we would do, which was really interesting, is we would go into all the organs, and the torque field would start to open around the organ, and we would harmonize with that. And then that would start to unravel. And then the DNA itself, torus field, would start to open up. And as it opened up, what was contained within the DNA would almost be activated. And so it was used as a form of activation for what might be contained within something. So there may be a nuance to it. Not only is it moving, through for us through our pranic tube, out our crown and around our energetic field, right? And it's interacting with every living thing that is also has their toric field. But that we think of it sometimes as around something larger, but we can go inward as well into the the atoms and the cells and the tissues and the neutron, like inward, and work with it as a field to give us access perhaps to spaces that we're not familiar with. And so it's really fascinating and beautiful work. Now, what you're asking about is if you have a toy on the floor and that toy has its own field. I'm not sure. Like for me, my understanding was the field is much more active around something that has life force. Obviously, everything has life force at some level, but of course, a living plant or, an apple's torque field is going to be much stronger than a toy. And so we're always interacting with everything and its torque fields when that's creating the makeup of our reality as we know it. So I I don't know how else to help you with that, but if you want to kind of delve more into the human aspect of the field in the DNA, the organs and the tissues, we went into depth in that in the teachings in the healing light code.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, and reach out to Devashri. She met him in person, and
Okay,
may have
I will.
she has much more knowledge of that than I do. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Who's next?
Tina, you are up.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kelly, for coming on today. I was in the transmission this morning, and yes, it was, I'm speechless to say the least from that experience. So thank you very much. So my question has to do with the split and has to do with bringing in and healing the aspects of us that we've moved out of. So, in other words, when we look back at our life prior to awakening, things sometimes seem very like distant, but it's still there. It's still our history and it's still our past. So, how can we heal that in a way that is more expansive rather than coming at it at an experience at a time? You know what I mean? So like looking at it like, okay, when I was 16, I'm healing that part. When I'm 25, I'm healing that part. How is there a way to expansively heal that?
Well, I can't see you. I wish I could. I don't know if there's a
Oh,
way to
hmm.
highlight people, but anyway, um, often if you can find the thread of the repeat of the pattern, you don't have to necessarily then heal each pinpoint along the linear line, right? You can find the thread, because often the pattern of something you needed to heal at 7 and 10 and 16 and 26 has a common denominator of some type of belief, some type of frequency, some type of energy that has to keep repeating itself in new stories and new scenarios to get your attention to heal. So if you can pick one and you can find the thread, then you can collapse the timelines from, especially if you can pick one closer to self, and that one you can find the thread that moves through and you can heal that one, then simultaneously you're collapsing the timeline of all of those that are threaded together that have that similar theme. So I mean that would be one way to energetically kind of do more of a clean sweep of something on a holographic level, rather than, piece by piece, trauma by trauma, section by section, because you are all of that, and all of that is held within one field as you, if that's somewhat helpful. I'm not sure.
Yeah, very
I
helpful.
can't.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Awesome. So, Nicole, you're up next.
Hi, my question is around the divine masculine and taking action. And so I was wondering if you had advice for those of us who are like really good at the divine feminine realm of like ideas and dreaming and possibility, working with spirit, like all of that, but really struggle with like grounding that into like this reality and taking action on those things to bring them to life.
Well, sometimes I work on that myself, bringing in that strong masculine energy that carries things through. I think sometimes we think that they're separate, but they're not, right? It's when they're in balance and in union with one another, that the masculine isn't isolated from itself, but it's held by the feminine, held by the Shakti, by that life force energy that it carries you. So, but energetically for you, I'm just going to take a moment because I'm feeling called to pull on the cards. I was just feeling into there's that you are at this really like strong choice point right now, and that there's something energetically that you're a little bit afraid of. And so you're bypassing a power that you have, that you know how to move forward with the action, but you want to stay safe. And so staying safe allows you to like kind of be in the etheric realm of the feminine and not force yourself to kind of do some things that are a little bit harder, that you're totally capable of, to implement what you need to implement to make your dreams come true, because there's some underlying fear around, if they were to come true and they were fully actualized, what would that mean and what would have to change? So maybe just, I know that's not hitting well right now with you.
No, it's
You're
okay.
like,
It's like,
God
yes, I get that. No, it is hitting. I guess it's just like this confusion about the action. And I tend to overcomplicate things and want to make like the perfect choice. And so I think that just prevents me from taking any action.
so the card that came up for you was leadership, which is action, right? It's stepping up. It's taking those steps, even if you might fail along the way. The other thing that was coming up is this golden card of disentangling from something, like a disentangling from an old way of being, to really step into your power and know that you are powerful, that you are capable, that you are safe, that you are able to do it, and pushing yourself a bit against what's not comfortable, just leading. And there's something that really wants to come through, that really wants to be shared with the world. And you can do it. You have everything in your capacity to make that happen. It it's a um I guess this is the final card that came up, which is, it's a very, very, very feminine card. The feminine created into it. It says at the bottom here, to make your vision real, tangible. And so I would advise many steps. Like, what is one tiny thing that you can do to tell yourself that you did it, so that you have, as Casey would often say, have evidence, and that your soul has evidence that you are going to do what you say you're going to do. That's going to move you forward in the direction toward your dreams unfolding. And it could be this big, like, I'm just going to write that one email, or I'm just going to make that phone call, or I'm just going to, whatever it might be, I don't know. And then do it. And then the next day, write down one small thing, not a huge thing, not everything I have to do to make my dreams come true, to manifest it, to create it in the masculine, but one action step. And then just do that one little thing and then be like, I did it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you pulling cards too. And I was wondering, is it okay to also ask Casey for his perspective here too? Because I know that
Yes,
he's
I
holding
wanted
that
Casey.
energy, and Raphael always calls him out for holding that divine masculine energy. So I feel like
I
his
wanted
input would
I
be.
wanted to ask him, but then I thought he's going to say, "Don't call me out like that, Mom." But he is the one with the answer.
I guess if I was going to say anything, the word that I heard you say, which I think is the enemy of taking action, is perfect, right? And perfection is the enemy of progress in my experience. And some of the best advice that I ever got was actually acting advice in acting school, and it was to act as poorly as you possibly could. Do it bad. Be prepared to lose. And the analogy that I like to give is think about sports and athletics, right? This is a really good way to get an idea of this aspect of the masculine that you're looking for. That if I want to become, say, a professional boxer, I don't, learn boxing online and shadow box and do all these things and expect that I'm going to get in the ring and that it's going to go really well. I expect that I'm going to get in the ring and I'm going to get my face caved in again and again and again. And I'm going to get up and it's going to hurt and I'm going to try and I'm going to do something new and I'm going to lose. And I'm going to try and I'm going to get up and I'm going to do something and I'm going to lose. But if I keep moving forward, if I keep taking action, if I keep holding that intention, inevitably it will unfold. And so part of taking action on whatever you're doing is being prepared for it not to work out, to fail forward, to take an action that says, I'm moving forward with this. I am putting my prayer towards this. I'm investing my energy towards this. And I am in relationship with the universe to learn, to allow myself to be sculpted into the person that I'm asking to become through the failure, through the missteps. And that whatever you are creating, whether it's a business, it's a piece of art, it's not what you create, but it's who you become on the journey of creating, of building that thing, right? That's my experience. And so whatever it is, just fail forward and think what is the number one thing that is getting in the way of me being able to do that, and just focus all of your attention on whatever that is. If it was boxing and it's like every time he gets me in the face, just practice blocking and go into that session and practice blocking, and eventually you're blocking all the punches. Now it's the next thing. I got to jab and block, jab and block, jab and block, and focus on that one thing until it's really good and move forward. But be prepared to be sculpted by the universe in a way that might not necessarily be comfortable.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. I really appreciate you both. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking. Oh, next question. Right, my job. Patricia, let me make sure you can unmute yourself. Oh, try now.
There we go. Okay. Okay, my question is, I have had a lot of these controversial illnesses, and I started out with chemical sensitivity back in the 1990s when nobody even knew what it was. And since that time, I've been on this train, and more people are getting on that train with long COVID, long Lyme, mast cell activation syndrome, you name it, the whole thing where you go to a doctor and they roll their eyes. But I feel like there's something higher, like there's a higher purpose with this. And that there's so many people that are on this journey, and that there's something going on beyond just having some weird conditions and having to deal with a broken medical system, et cetera, et cetera. So what is that? What is that higher purpose? Like, what is going on? Is this part of a shift?
I can only speak from personal experience. I've dealt with enormous amount of illness in my life, and I have found it to be the thing that has propelled me in my growth further than anything else. And whether that meant I couldn't eat anything for a long time and I had to eliminate everything unknown to the planet, there was a lot of growth that came from that. There was a lot of clarity that came from eating so clean because I was so sensitive to everything. It helped me tune into the vibrations of things more. There are times then when it it forced me to really have to heal emotional stuff that it showed up for me, and it was an opportunity for me to have a choice what direction I was going to go in my life. And so I find disease and illness to be one of our absolute greatest teachers and an acceleration course in personal growth. It forces us to grow faster than anything else because it can't be ignored because we have the pain or the intolerance or the sensitivity. And so it's kind of sitting there all the time. So I think it's the soul's way of moving us through things quickly if we're willing to meet it head on. In addition to that, on a practical level, we are living in a planet that's deeply out of balance, where there's lots of toxins, where the food and water is toxic in the air. We're ingesting plastics, and we have contaminated things that are also out of our control, that are in addition on top of that contributing. And so the more sensitive we are to vibration and frequency, until we're able to calibrate to those changes, we're going to present with symptoms. And I think that all of us have different times along our journey. I know for me, I've sort of grown out of the symptoms. There was a time where I literally could only eat like two things. And like if that's what it felt like, right? I couldn't even have seltzer water. Like I could just have hot water and like a little bit of rice and like two vegetables. Um, and then something happened. It changed. My vibration changed. The energy shifted. I did a lot of personal deep healing. And I'm not saying, and I'm not blaming myself for the disease showing up, but to me, disease is the greatest opportunity for healing. Yeah.
Can you pull a card on that?
Sure.
For all of
I'll
us.
pull a card. Mhm. What do we have? Oh, interesting. Plant medicine. Um, Seek natural healing, it says. So, yeah, I mean, it's also part of the system that's collapsing, that's no longer working for us. So many of us are finding that the old system is completely broken. Someone just sits at a typewriter, barely looks at you, doesn't understand anything about you, doesn't care. I'm not saying that's true for everybody, but a lot of people have this experience. And so it's forcing, as the earth is so clearly out of balance, but at the same time, it has all the solutions. The plants know the answers, right? What are some of those stories where you walk outside barefoot and the secretion of, what's going on at the bottom of your foot when it walks out in your landscape, wherever that may be, the earth will start to grow what you need, what herb you need to heal whatever's going on in your body. That's how powerful the earth is and our connection to it and its capacity to heal us. But we're so disconnected and so removed from that we have forgotten that everything we need to heal our bodies is usually right around us. So plant medicine and seeking natural healing makes sense. I will say on a personal level, the thing that my body responded to more than anything was Ayurvedic medicine and Panchakarma. Panchakarma changed my life. So, all right. Thank you, Patricia. All right, guys, it's time's up. It's been a long day. I'm glad I got to pop on as Kelly. I will channel next time. I love you. Thanks for being here, and we will connect soon. So in the meantime, have a beautiful weekend. If you're on the East Coast of the United States, stay warm. It's like 1 degrees where I am today. And we'll talk soon. All right. Much love to everyone and take care.